Hello fellow examiners, and welcome to the archives. How easy is it for you to trust someone? Or how well do you know your neighbor? Today's case extracted from the archives is the Cleveland Abductions, the situation where someone can disappear but be right under your nose for over a decade. This case takes us to Cleveland, Ohio, the United States. Cleveland was established on July in 1796 by surveyors of the Connecticut Land Company, and they named the new settlement Cleveland after their leader, General Moses Cleveland. The settlement served as an important supply post for the US, and after the war, the city witnessed rapid growth, bringing it to the current population of over 370,000 inhabitants. To the south of Cleveland, we reach Canton with a population of around 70,000 inhabitants, and in these quiet suburbs, we reach the house of Ariel Castro, our perpetrator, on 2207 Seymour Avenue, the famous address that came to be known for this case. Ariel Castro was born in Dewey, Puerto Rico, the son of Pedro Castro and Lilian Rodriguez. Castro's parents divorced when he was a child, and he moved to the mainland United States with his mother and three full siblings. They lived in Reading, Pennsylvania before settling in Cleveland, Ohio, where Castro's father and other family members were living. Castro worked as a bus driver for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District until he was fired for bad judgment, including making an illegal U-turn with children on his bus, using his bus to go grocery shopping, leaving a child on the bus while he went for lunch, and leaving the bus unattended while he took a nap at home. Castro met his girlfriend Grimilda Figuero when his family moved into a house across the street from hers in the 1980s. They lived with both sets of parents, but moved into their own home at 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland's Tremont neighborhood, in 1992. Figuero's sister, Elida Caraballo, said that all hell started breaking loose when the couple moved into their new home. Caraballo and her husband, Frank, claimed that Castro beat Figuero, breaking her nose, ribs, and arms. He also threw her down a flight of stairs, cracking her skull, and causing a blood clot on her brain that resulted in an inoperable tumor. In 1993, Castro was arrested for domestic violence but was not indicted by a grand jury. Figuero moved out of the house in 1996 and secured custody of her 4 children. Police assisted in the move and detained Castro, but they did not press charges. Castro continued to threaten and attack Figuero after she left him, according to Caraballo. Further charges were filed in 2005, accusing Castro of inflicting multiple severe injuries on her and of frequently abducting their daughters, and the court granted her a temporary restraining order against Castro, but it was dismissed a few months later. Castro kidnapped his victims by offering them a ride. He drove each to his home at 2207 Seymour Avenue, lured them inside, took them to the basement, and restrained them. Being a relatively small community, and him being the school bus driver, gave him credibility, which made his victims trust him. Michelle Knight disappeared on August 23, 2002, after leaving a cousin's house. She was 21 years old at the time. On the day of her disappearance, she was scheduled to appear in court for a child custody case involving her son Joey, who was in the custody of the state. Knight couldn't find the building she was looking for, so she asked several bystanders for help, but no one could point her in the right direction. That's when she saw Castro. He offered her a lift, and she recognized him as the father of someone she knew, so she agreed. But he drove in the wrong direction, claiming that he had a puppy at his house for her son. The passenger door of his car lacked a handle. She went into his house and walked up to where he said the puppies were. As soon as she reached a room on the second floor, he shut the door behind her. Amanda Marie Berry disappeared on April 21, 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. She was last heard from around 8 p.m. when she called her sister to tell her that she was getting a ride home from her job at Burger King. Leaving her Burger King shift, she was looking for a ride when she spotted Castro's familiar-looking van. Gina Lynn De Jesus went missing on April 2, 2004, at age 14. She was last seen at a payphone around 3 p.m. while on the way home from her middle school. At the time, she was friends with Castro's daughters Arlene. Shortly before Gina disappeared, she and Arlene had called Arlene's mother, Grimilda Figuero, for permission to have a sleepover at the Jesus house, but Figuero replied that they could not, and the two girls parted ways. Arlene was the last person to see De Jesus before her disappearance. De Jesus was under the impression that Castro was picking her up to drop her off at home, and she trusted Castro because she was friends with his teenage daughter. No one witnessed her abduction, and an Amber Alert was not issued, which angered her father, mentioning that the Amber Alert should work for any missing child. Whether it's an abduction or a runaway, a child needs to be found. According to Castro's uncle, his family knew the De Jesus family and had lived in the same neighborhood. Castro eventually claimed that he was not aware that De Jesus was a member of that family when he abducted her. The lives of Ariel Castro's 3 victims were filled with horror and pain. He kept them restrained in the basement before he let them live upstairs, still sequestrated behind locked doors, often with holes to slide food in and out. They used plastic buckets as toilets, which Castro rarely emptied. They were fed 1 meal a day and allowed to shower twice a week at most. To make matters worse, Castro liked to play mind games with his victims. He would sometimes leave their door open to tempt them with freedom. When he inevitably caught them, he'd punish the girls with a beating. Meanwhile, instead of birthdays, Castro forced the women to celebrate their abduction day, commemorating the anniversaries of their imprisonment. The 3 women learned a few things in this time: how to handle Castro, how to get a sense of what was happening in the house, and how to hide their inner feelings. Upon being kidnapped, Castro took each victim to the upper floor of his house, tied her hands and feet together, and pulled her up using her hands, feet, and neck. He left her there for 3 days without food. Prosecutors at Castro's sentencing wrote that diaries kept by his victims speak of all the horrific things they had to endure. Michelle Knight was typically kept with Gina De Jesus, but as the most rebellious of the group, Knight was often in trouble with Castro. It punished her by withholding food, restraining her to a support beam in the basement, and by frequent beatings and rapes. Knight told police that Castro had impregnated her at least 5 times and had induced miscarriages each time through beatings, hitting her with dumbbells, punching her, and slamming her against walls. At one point, Knight had a pet dog while in captivity, but Castro killed it by snapping its neck after it bit him while trying to protect Knight. On Christmas Day 2006, Castro allegedly ordered Knight to assist in the birth of Barry's child, which took place in a small inflatable swimming pool, and threatened to kill her if the baby did not survive. At one point, the baby stopped breathing, but Knight was able to resuscitate her. Castro occasionally took Barry's daughter out of the house, including to visit his mother. According to a statement from the CDP, officers visited Castro's home only once following the kidnappings to discuss an unrelated incident. Castro did not appear to be home at the time and was later interviewed elsewhere. Neighbors claimed to have called the police about suspicious activity observed at the home, but police have said that they have no records of any such calls. Castro's son Anthony reported that there were certain areas of the house that were inaccessible due to being locked. Castro recalled each of the 3 abductions in great detail during his interrogations and indicated that they were unplanned crimes of opportunity. According to sources, Castro did not have an exit plan and believed that he would eventually be caught. He referred to himself as cold-blooded and a sex addict. Police found a suicide note in the house in which he discussed the abductions and wrote that his money and possessions should be given to the kidnapped woman if he were caught. On May 6, 2013, Barry was finally able to make contact with Castro's neighbors, leading to her escape with her 6-year-old daughter and the rescue of De Jesus and Knight by authorities. According to police, Castro had left the house that day and Barry realized that he had failed to lock the big inside door, although the exterior storm door was bolted. She did not attempt to break through the outer door because she thought that Castro was testing her, according to the police report. Previously, Castro had tested the woman by leaving the house partially unlocked and exit unsecured. Instead, Barry screamed for help and she saw neighbors through the screen. Neighbor Charles Ramsey and Angel Cordero came to the house's front door during the rescue. They kicked a hole through the bottom of the storm door and Barry crawled through carrying her daughter. Ramsey said that Barry told him that she and her child were being kept inside the house against her will. Upon being freed, she went to the house of another neighbor and with Ramsey's assistance called 911. Responding police officers entered Castro's house. They walked through an upstairs hallway with guns drawn, announcing themselves as CDP. After peeking out from a slightly open bedroom door, Knight entered the hallway and leaped into the officer's arm, repeatedly saying, "You saved me." Soon afterward, De Jesus entered the hallway from another room. Knight and De Jesus walked out of the house and all three women plus the child were taken to the Metro Health Medical Center. Following Knight's rescue, police acknowledged that limited resources had been spent on investigating her disappearance, in part because she was an adult. Authorities believe that she had run away voluntarily due to anger over losing custody of her son. Castro was arrested on May 6, 2013, and he was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape on May 8, which carry prison sentences of 10 years to life in Ohio. 2 of Castro's brothers, Pedro and O'Neill, were also initially taken into custody but were released on May 9th after police announced that they had no involvement in the kidnappings and the charges against the 2 brothers were dropped. Castro made his first court appearance at the Cleveland Municipal Court on May 9, where bail was set at $2 million per kidnapping charge, adding that to a total of $8 million. Prosecutors intended to seek the death penalty against Castro. Castro pleaded guilty on July 26 to 937 out of the 977 charges against him, including charges of kidnapping, rape, and aggravated murder as part of a plea bargain which called for consecutive sentences of life in prison plus 1,000 years, all without parole. Under the plea deal, Castro forfeited his right to appeal and could not profit in any way due to his crimes. He also forfeited his assets, including his Seymour Avenue house, which prosecutors said would be demolished. Before his sentencing, Castro addressed the court for nearly 20 minutes in which he said he was a good person and not a monster, but that he was addicted to sex and pornography and had practiced the art of masturbation from a young age. He claimed that he had never beaten or tortured the women and insisted that most of the sex he had with them was consensual. He shifted between apologizing and blaming the FBI for failing to catch him, as well as blaming his victims themselves for getting in a car with a stranger, along with insisting to the court that when he had sex with them, he discovered that they were not virgins. After going to prison, 1 month into his life sentence, Castro was found hanging from a bedsheet in his cell on the evening of September 3, 2013. He was 53 at the time of his death, and preliminary autopsy had found the cause of Castro's death being suicide by hanging. On October 10, 2013, a report was released which suggested that Castro may have died accidentally from an autoerotic asphyxiation rather than suicide. The report also said that 2 prison guards had falsified logs documenting their observations of Castro hours before he was found dead. He was not on suicide watch at the time of his death, but he had been subjected to routine checks every 30 minutes due to his notoriety. In the end, a consultant's report was released on December 3rd and officially concluded that all available evidence pointed to suicide. After the girls were rescued, Knight, Barry, and De Jesus released a video statement on July 9, 2013, thanking the public for their support. The Cleveland Courage Fund was a bank account that was set up to help the women in their transition to independent life, which had collected over $1 million at that time of the video's release. At that time, De Jesus said that she was currently volunteering for the Amber Alert Committee, offering comfort to the families of abducted children. In February 2017, Barry joined the staff of Fox affiliate WJW in Cleveland, where she hosts short recurring segments in which she reports missing person cases in order to help families reunite with missing family members.